Hello, welcome to a new crafty video. In this video, I'll be going over 4 ways to dry flowers. I'll show you how each method works and then I'll compare them together. So each 4 of the methods are seen here, which you can pause if you'd like. Dried flowers can be used in a number of different crafts, but lately I've been using them to make kaleido frames, such as the one seen here. And then these are the 4 flowers that I'll be using. So I bought these at a local grocer. So we have some gerberas, and then we have some roses. I believe these purple flowers are called status sea or sea lavender. And then lastly, we have some baby's breath. So let's get started with the first method. So for this method, I'm just going to be using a heavy object to press the flowers down. So I'm just arranging the flowers that I want that I've cut from the stems, and then I'm placing them on tissue paper, which I later realized might not have been the best paper for this method, but here we go anyway. And then I folded the tissue paper on top of all of the flowers. And then I placed a very heavy box on top of those on the floor. I waited about a week and then I retrieved them from under the box, and here are the results. All the flowers except for the gerbera are alright. I believe they could use a bit more time to dry, but otherwise they look pretty good. The gerbera stuck to the paper and I believe it had too much moisture in it or was too voluminous. As you can tell, it's starting to kind of look like it's rotting almost, and it's hard to peel from the tissue, and the stem broke off, so I would not recommend this method for flowers such as gerberas. This is what it looks like once I got it peeled off, and I immediately threw it away after this video because, as you can tell, it was quite gross. So now let's move on to the second method, which is hang dry or hanging the flowers to dry. And then I'll go over the results for each of the methods and compare them together at the end of this video in more detail. For the second method, you can dry flowers by hanging them upside down. So I separated the flowers by the individual stems, and then I used a rubber band to attach them to clothes hangers. And then I hung them up like clothes in my closet. You want to hang them in a place that's dark and relatively dry, and so my closet was perfect for this. And then depending on the flower type, you'll want to leave them for 1 to 3 weeks. So here I am checking back on them in about a week, so you can clearly tell from the video that they're very different and dried. So moving on to the third method, we will be looking at silica crystals. You can buy these flower drying crystals at craft stores or online. And then I use a couple pieces of Tupperware that I've dedicated specifically for these crystals. To prep the Tupperware for your flowers, you want to pour a thin-ish layer on the bottom of the Tupperware of the sand and kind of level it out. Then you'll want to trim your flowers so that they'll fit inside the Tupperware. And for the most part, you want to trim most of the stem off of the flower so you're left with just the flower itself. Then you'll want to spread your flowers out so that there's no overlap. And then you want to slowly pour the crystals on top of the flowers until all of the flowers are completely covered. So I prepared a second Tupperware this way as well, so that I'm drying at least one of each of the 4 flower types. So then I put the lids back on each of the containers. And if you're using this flower drying method, you'll want to leave them alone for 2 to 3 days. So after a few days, I dug my flowers out from the sand, and this can be a bit of a messy process. The sand has a tendency to go everywhere, so I like to work on top of some butcher paper. So just be careful when you're taking the flowers out of the sand because they are more delicate now that they're completely dry. I like to kind of strain them, which is I like to dump most of the sand out first and then pick out the flowers. You might lose a couple petals here and there to this method, so I like to pull those out as well because those can also be useful for different craft projects. So your sand can actually turn pink after repeated uses, which my sand did not turn pink while I was filming, but in the past it has. And this just means that it needs to be recharged. So you need to leave the sand out in heat and in under sunlight, and then the crystals will change back to a white-blue color once they're ready to be used again. So now let's move on to the fourth and final method I'll be covering in this video for flower drying. So we will be microwaving flowers in this method, and I'll be using a special press I bought from Amazon, and it's called the Microfleur. So this is actually the small version, and then there is also a large version available as well. So what you'll want to do is separate all of the pieces of the press and then create a sandwich. So you want to put one of the palettes, and then one of the pads, and then one of the fabric sheets, and then you'll want to put your flower or flowers facing down, and then another sheet, and then another pad, finally the other palette on top. So then you'll want to clamp them on each side. And now your flowers are ready to be cooked. The time that you'll want to microwave will depend on the type of flower that you're using, as well as the power that you use on your microwave. There are detailed instructions that come with the Microfleur. I microwaved this flower in particular for 40 seconds at first, which is the first burst, and then you want to do a second burst of a lot less time. So I did a second burst of 10 seconds. You'll want to let your press cool for a while, and then it is ready to unclamp and take the flower out. I did this process the second time for the other 3 flower types. And I will say that one of the drawbacks for this method is that you will have to replace the sheets periodically. I find them kind of difficult to clean, and you will have to buy replacement sheets. Alright, so that was how to do each of the 4 methods. So now let's compare the results. We'll start with the roses. So this one is kind of, it's thin, like it thinned out definitely, but it's still relatively like fresh feeling. And so I'm gonna actually leave it out for a bit to see if it becomes more dry, but that's that. And this one actually preserved its color the best, but I think once it dries, it will kind of darken like the rest of them did. This is the Microfleur press, and I think I accidentally did it for too long, which is kind of like an issue with the Microfleur press, because you microwave in such short intervals, it's easy to burn the flowers. But this method is the best if you want to get like a really thin flower. I don't think it works the best for roses in particular, but it works really well for certain types of flowers that you want to get really flat. The silica gel is the one that preserved the shape of the rose the best, and so here they are. They feel a little bit more fresh than the press or the hang upside down method. So I'm going to leave them out for a bit, and I think they'll dry up a little bit more. But I really like this one in particular because it preserved its shape really well, and the color is really nice. So there's these 2 I did in the silica gel, and then here's the back of this. It still has some of the sand clinging to it, so I'm gonna clean it up a little bit and shake it off. So yeah, there's that one. And then lastly, the upside down method, where I just hung them in my closet for about a week. So they do kind of will shrivel up, so they will get smaller, but they do maintain their shape, as in like they're not flattened out. And actually I think this might be my favorite method for roses, because I think it looks really nice, and it's really like it preserved the shape really well. The color is good, and it's really dry. It's really dried out, and I feel like it's very like it'll last for a long time this way. So that's that method. And so these are all the 4 different methods with the orange rose. Alright, so now we have these 2 flowers. I combined them so I didn't lose track of which method was which. I can tell for the most part, but it's kind of tricky with these smaller flowers. Some of the methods look very similar. So starting with using the heavy weight, we have the yellow flower, the white flower, I know my colors, and then the purple flower. This one feels like it's still very fresh, not completely dry. This one feels very papery dry, which is what you want. And so there's these two using the press, using just weight method, and then this is the Microfleur press microwave method. And so these are really flat, like these are the most flat again, and they're also very paper thin, and they were very quick to make. And I think this is a really good method for this type of flower, especially this one in particular, because it really dries it really well and flattens it out. This one is also really cool, but it does make these purple flowers lose their shape, so it flattens them, which can be good in some instances, but then if you want to keep more of their shape, the next two methods are better for that. So this is the silica gel, and so it's very papery, it dried really well. Same with this one, and they keep their shape a little bit more. And so there's these two. And then finally, the upside down method might be my favorite because it requires no materials except for a hanger and a rubber band is what I used, and it comes out really papery and really nice in this particular flower instance. So there's that. So these are all of the purple and the white flowers. Alright, so this is an interesting one because this is all the same flower, but as you can tell, the different methods produce very different results. We'll start with this one, the one with just the weight, and this one is, what do you guys think? It's pretty bad. It looks like it's molding and rotted. I think it was, this flower in particular was too fresh, too thick, kind of like too moist. Yeah, to really work for this method, because yeah, it just did not turn out well. It discolored, it molded, it didn't even dry all that much, so I'm probably going to throw this one away right after this video. This one is the Microfleur microwave version, which is pretty nice actually. It's very flat and dry, however there's some discoloration, kind of like almost a square or a circle around it, and I think that might be because I used the press wasn't completely new or completely clean, so it might have rubbed off from other presses I did, but I think it's not that noticeable, especially on camera, but you can kind of see it. It also might be slightly that I overdid it and burned it a little bit, but here's the back. Ooh, the back actually looks really pretty too. So there's that one. And then this one's probably my favorite. This is the silica gel. It still has some of the sand on it, as you can see, but this one's really nice because it's really dry. It also still has some shape to it, and the color is really nice as well. So I particularly like this one. It's really nice. And then this one is the upside down version, and as you can tell, it really shriveled up, and because of the gravity, it shriveled, it pushed it down and it shriveled up. However, it is pretty dry, and I think it is a really like unique look, so I'll be keeping this one, but it's not my favorite method for this flower. But there's that, and I kept some of the stem as well. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, please subscribe for more crafting videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye!